Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I just want to connect my computer to Zoom so I can share my slideshow. Yeah, you can send it to the same email address that I just sent. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Ayanam Namaskritam Shiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatam Tojaya Mutirayed. Please read the translation together. Before deciding the should not very complex. Much of that basis crime. Until the organization super Interesting point. Does anyone know why it says? Oops. Let me mute myself. That should solve it. Does anyone know why it says all that is troublesome to the heart? If you attend the classes, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. Why does it say almost? Anyone ever think that's quite peculiar? Okay. Go forward.
One devotee says in the next verse, or a few verses on, it's reconciled. I don't know if that's true. I've also heard that we always have a free will. We never lose our free will. So those are the two things I've heard on it.
What I heard is that if you can become proud, you can think that, oh, I'm learning Bhagavatam. Is that what you wanted to share, Prabhu? Huh? Oh, I guess there's many different versions. But I heard that you can become proud. So don't think when you learn Bhagavatam, oh, you're so much smarter than the other, so much smarter than the karmis that are out there. That pride can stop that heart from completely purified. So I think I'm in the meeting now. I just need to share my screen. So, okay. Okay. see if it works. Okay, I'm glad it worked out. So thank you everyone for coming. Welcome. Today we're going to talk about something called the 10 topics of the Srimad Bhagavatam. That's what is in the verses that we're discussing. And it'll become clear why, but this class will be titled Becoming a Prospector, someone that prospects for gold. So learning how to be able to recognize gold. Okay, so these 10 topics of the Srimad Bhagavatam, let's see what we have. I'll read the first one. So Shri Shukadev Goswami said, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are 10 divisions of statements regarding the following: the creation of the universe, subcreation, planetary systems, protection by the Lord, creative impetus, the change of manners, the science of God, returning home back to Godhead, liberation, and the summum bonum. So that's our principal verse that we're focusing on. It's the first verse of the, I think it's the 10th chapter of the second canto. So let's do the word for word together, but slowly, please. Shri Shuka Uvacha, Shri Shukadev Goswami said, Atra, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Sarga, statement of the creation of the universe, Visarga, statement of subcreation, Cha, also, Sthana, the planetary systems, Oshanam, protection, Udaya, creative impetus, Manvantara, changes of manners, Isha, Ankataha, science of God, Nirodha, going back home, back to God, Mukti, liberation, Ashraya, Samambha. Okay, so 10 topics that are going to be shared. So basically, Shukadev Goswami is just telling Parikshit Maharaj that there are 10 main topics that the Bhagavatam discusses, and he's giving him a little preview. Okay. So, Shri Shuka Vacha, Atra Sargo Visargascha, Sthanam Poshanam Utaya, Anvantare Shanukata, Nirodho Tirashraya. Okay, please go ahead. Okay, one more. Okay. Okay, I'm going to read again the translation of the first verse. Shri Shukadeva Goswami said, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are 10 divisions of statements regarding the following: the creation of the universe, subcreation, planetary systems, protection by the Lord, the creative impetus, the change of manners, the science of God, returning home back to God, liberation, and summum bonum. Okay, So maybe Kiara can the second verse for us. Oh, before the second verse, here's a nice illustration of those 10 topics. And for each topic, we'll have a zoomed in picture. So that's coming up. Okay, Kiara.
To isolate the transcendence of the summum bonum, the symptoms of the rest are described sometimes by Vedic inference, sometimes by direct explanation, and sometimes by summary explanations given by the great sages.
Remember, the 10th topic was the summum bonum. So it's saying to isolate the transcendence of the summum bonum, the rest of the topics are described. Keep that in mind. Okay, who would read next for us?
The elementary creation of 16 items of matter, namely the 5 elements, fire, water, land, air, and sky, sound, form, taste, smell, touch, and the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin, and mind, known as the sarga, whereas subsequent resultant interactions of the modes of material nature is called visarga.
So, how many topics in this verse? 2. Okay, let's see. Creation by the Lord. So, Vishnu, just breathing and sleeping, and the universe is coming out, of course. Then there is the Visarga, sub-creation. That's Lord Brahma. Just arranging all material items, right? Material ingredients. Okay, next verse.
The right situation for the living entities is to obey the laws of the Lord and thus be in perfect peace of mind under the protection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Manus and their laws are meant to give right direction in life. The impetus for activity is the desire for fruitive work.
How many topics here? Steven says one. Any other guesses? She's. How many topics are here in this verse of those 10 topics? What? The math did not check out on that one. There's 4 actually. There's 4 topics. So Sthana, maintaining the planetary system. Sometimes this is also translated as the position of the living entities. We're here in these material planetary systems. Then Poshana, the Lord protecting the devotees. This verse also mentioned Uti, creative impetus of karma. So basically how the modes are driving us to act. And Manvantara, the reigns of the arts. Okay. Let's see what's next. Who's going to read next for us?
The science of God describes the incarnations of the personality of Godhead and his different activities together with the activities of his great devotees.
Okay, so that's just one topic, right? Ishanukata, the science of God and his incarnations and his devotees. Okay, next.
The merging of the living entity along with his conditional living tendency with the mystic living line down of the Mahavishnu is called the winding up of the cosmic manifestation. Liberation is the permanent situation of the form of the living entity after he gives up the changeable growth and subtle material bodies.
How many topics? 2, yes, that's right. Okay, so the Nirodha, the annihilation. Mahavishnu breathes in again. And Mukti, liberation. So, final topic. What's reading next?
The Supreme One, who is celebrated as the Supreme Being or the Supreme Soul, is the supreme source of the cosmic manifestation as well as its reservoir and winding up. Thus, he is the supreme fountainhead, the absolute truth.
Okay, that's the final topic. Ashraya, the supreme shelter or the summum bonum. Okay, there's 2 more verses about this 10th topic. We're going to read both and then I'll explain them. So go ahead with number 8.
Individual person possessing different instruments of senses is called the Adhyatmic person, and the individual controlling deity of the senses is called Adidevic. The embodiment seen on the eyeballs is called the Adibhotic person.
Okay, someone read the last verse for us, please. Maybe couldn't, or,
All
yeah,
three
John.
of the above mentioned stages of different living entities are interdependent. In the absence of one, another is not understood, but the Supreme Being who sees every one of them as the shelter of the shelter is independent of all, and therefore he is the supreme shelter.
Okay, so what did these two verses say here at the end? Basically, it was saying that we have different sense organs, like our eyes, for example, and we are dependent on the sun god for that vision, actually. But that demigod is also dependent on us because we have that interdependent relationship. That very role is defined by us using our eyes. However, Krishna, the summum bonum, ultimate shelter, is not dependent. So that's these two verses we're saying. Okay, so quickly we're gonna look at them again, and now keep in mind my question. My question is, which of the 10 topics is the most important? Okay, the first one, Sarga, universal creation by the Supreme Lord. Visarga, secondary creation by Lord Brahma. Sthanam, the position of the living entities in the planetary systems. Poshana, protection for the devotees. Uti, how the modes are pushing us to act, the creative impetus of karma. Manvantara, the reign of the Manas. Ishanukta, the topics of the Lord's incarnations and his devotees. Nirodha, annihilation. Mukti, liberation. Or ashraya, the supreme shelter. Get out of here. Why is everyone laughing? Isn't it maybe that one? No, it's obvious. It's the 10th one, right? So now my question to you, we should go straight to the source, right? Is that what we do? But it's so easy to see that these other topics, right? And Srila Prabhupada, he translated the Krishna book for us. He raced actually to finish the Krishna book long before he set forth to work on the rest of the cantos and start finishing the Bhagavatam. He wanted to finish the Krishna book. So we have to race straight to the Krishna book, isn't it? Not exactly. We want to get to Krishna in Vrindavan, where he's most relaxed, where he's most himself, where everything is very intimate. But we don't go there immediately. We've seen many times in these first two cantos, the acharyas describing that you have to work your way through the different cantos. Just like in the temple, you're supposed to look at the deities by starting with the feet, going gradually up. So yes, Prabhupada raced to finish the Krishna book, but Krishna book is also full of lots of Gaudiya Siddhanta, lots of conclusions in our tradition that help us to properly understand what's going on in the 10th canto. So most definitely the 10th topic is what we want. It is the most important for us, but we don't rush there. Have you heard the saying? Fools rush in where angels fear to tread. Fools rush in where angels fear to tread. So a fool would just rush in a certain situation, where an angel who has more wisdom would be careful to rush in, careful to tread in that area. So the meaning is we have to be so careful, and we have to become prospectors. These 9 cantos, they teach us how to recognize gold and to actually value it when we see it. So I'm going to show you a funny video. I don't know if you have it ready. I have to stop sharing? Okay. I can stop sharing. Let's see if this works out. Very short video, but it illustrates a very nice point. Got a sound issue? That's it. You don't have to explain. Basically, this guy works in New York in the gold district, and he makes many silly videos like this where he takes pieces of gold and he walks up to the other New Yorkers and asks them, "Hey, sir, you want this?" And you know, it's New York. I think these people are pretty fried out with random people on the street approaching them. So most of them are not very interested. Only at the end, someone takes it, and only because they recognize this guy from his YouTube videos. Right? It's okay. Let me just share my screen. So that's what happens in that video, and it illustrates our point very nicely. It's okay. Oh, we can just see what he's doing. We can see how people react. Oh, you said that? Yeah. But it sounds like a major scam, right? Yeah, it's a scam. That guy, he takes it and he's like, "Yo, Tracks NYC, you're the best." So recognizes the YouTuber. So you see what he says at the end? People don't know what's good for them. They don't even take gold. So gold is something that comes and goes, but the real gold is from the Srimad Bhagavatam, this text that we're studying. And not just the text itself, but what it gives us in the 10th canto, that 10th topic. It really is gold, but are we able to truly recognize it? To use another analogy, like we have to build a good foundation. In the Bible, it speaks about building your house either on sand or on solid rocks. So we have to build a foundation for our understanding of Krishna. To use another analogy, imagine you have to scale a cliff or a mountain. Now you could be like this guy. I think it's called free climbing, where you don't use any equipment. You can do that, or you can just steadily go up the ladder that someone else has put on the other side of the mountain. It's very dangerous to do the first. But what is this danger? I keep saying, we have to be careful. It can be so dangerous. What is actually the danger? Anyone have any ideas? Forgetting Krishna, okay. Other ideas? Okay. Misinterpreting, okay. Getting warmer. So the question, just to be clear, is why not just rush straight to the 10th? One understanding. So take a look at this. We're going back to that second verse we read. To isolate the transcendence of the summum bonum, the symptoms of the rest are described by the sages. So these other 9 topics are to isolate the transcendence of that 10th topic. What does that mean, actually? Look at this verse from the Bhagavad Gita. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world. Now, I've always thought it's quite interesting. What does it say here? It doesn't say the specific words are important. It doesn't say one who knows my name, one who knows my bodily features. It says one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities. So what does that mean? Well, it means you have to understand that everything Krishna does is just unmotivated, pure love, unconditional love. Everything he does is to increase the love that exists between him and his devotees. That's what's transcendental about his appearance and his activities, his leelas. That's what it means. So the first 9 cantos help us to understand that Krishna is transcendental. He doesn't act for the same reasons that we might be acting right now in our conditioned state here in the material world. So if you rush to the 10th canto, you might not understand that. There's so many of Krishna's actions that can be confusing. Like, for example, any ideas? Rasa Leela, yes, Jonathan? Killing just left and right, pop, pop, pop. Bruce. Slap the shop owner. He's just slapping people. What's going on? Yes? Stealing the clothes of the woman. Yeah. So yeah, if you don't properly understand Krishna's transcendental position, you might just think, look at this person, he's just like me, you know, it's just like us. And that's very dangerous. That's very dangerous. So one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activity. When I go out and distribute books on campus, can some of you guess what is one of the lines that Indian students like to tell me when they don't want to? I already have it. I know Krishna. I know Krishna. But what do they really know? Have they studied the 9 cantos of the Bhagavatam? Do they understand how transcendental Krishna and all his activities actually are? Not so sure. Okay. So, the name of this chapter is actually The Bhagavatam Answers All Questions. That's the name of this chapter. Sorry, Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. So, that's quite significant. So basically, just give me a second. I must find my notes. I think I went a little too far. Sorry. Oh, now I know where we're supposed to. Sorry about that. Okay. At this point, I want to do a quick recap. We saw the 10 topics of the Bhagavatam. We saw that the summum bonum is the most important, but we want to become prospectors. We don't just want to rush in. We first want to learn how to properly value gold, right? And now I want to ask all of you, actually, what are some of the ways in which those 9 cantos might help us to understand Krishna's transcendental position? And what are some of the ways in which those 9 cantos prepare us to properly value Krishna? Any ideas? Let's go to Krishna. And just need a microphone.
In all the 9 cantos, in 10th canto, we hear about the devotees, their character, what they had to go through, and what they were willing to go through for Krishna, and what kind of quality it takes to be a devotee of Krishna.
Right. And I was also thinking, Bhagavatam also shows the proper and improper etiquette in which you should deal with others. Okay, Bruce?
Krishna. I'm not super familiar, but so far what we've read in the 2nd canto is the role that Krishna plays in the creation of the universe, and so we see his role,
his supremacy, right?
Yeah. So that helps us appreciate it.
Right. He is actually the source of everything and true creator of everything. That's very good. Yes, Anthony.
It helps us break apart certain aspects to be able to isolate it and see it for what it is, and then come together as a whole later on.
Right, very good. Another thing I was thinking about is the holy names and chanting and hearing and chanting about Krishna. Those cantos, all throughout the cantos, there's great emphasis put on that. So it gives us the process that'll purify us so that we can eventually understand Krishna and Vrindavan. Okay. So now, I'm going to do a little bit of a meta-analysis. We've looked at the Bhagavatam and how those 9 topics are supposed to give us faith in the 10th topic. But meta-analysis, let's take a step back. What gives us faith in the Bhagavatam? Before we can, look at the Bhagavatam and take seriously what it is saying, what gives us faith in the Bhagavatam? Me?
It'll speak to you exactly where you're at.
Okay. So it really resonates sometimes, and it's mystically almost giving exactly what you. Yeah. Okay. Got a few hands. Let's go, Stephen. What gives us faith in Bhagavatam? Where can our faith in the Bhagavatam come from?
Even though scholars may say that it was composed like 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, and in our tradition we know that it was spoken 5,000 years ago, it actually like supersedes all of that because it's not like a chronological story. It is a collection of stories from different yugas and different ages, and it's
like a Quentin Tarantino movie.
Yeah, it's like you can't pin it down and say like it's like even. Yeah, in any case, it's like because it's so vast in its contents.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's next. Everyone's brains are very active. I'm happy to see that.
For me, if I think it's the character and realizations of devotees who have studied the Bhagavatam.
Okay, now we're getting to what I was thinking.
Yes, those the faith, those devotees that we see around us,
Yes,
contemporary as well as previous acharyas, who spend their lives learning and teaching Bhagavatam, and then their character and realizations, their spiritual advancement.
Yes. So I'm not gonna take any more answers there. I need to move on. Sorry. But that's where I was trying to get at. The acharyas, they give us the faith, right? So I'm going to read you something. This is from what's called the Bhagavata speech. Bhaktivinoda Thakur once gave a big talk in front of many learned Vedic scholars and sages, so-called sages. And he spoke about the Bhagavatam. And he said this in one part of the speech, the talk. It's very peculiar. Listen carefully. When we were in college, Bhaktivinoda Thakur and his friends, when they were in college, reading the philosophical works of the West and exchanging thoughts with the thinkers of the day, we had contracted a hatred towards the Bhagavad. The great work seemed like a repository of ideas scarcely adapted to the 19th century, what to speak of us now in the 21st century. And we hated to hear any argument in its favor. To us, we wanted to read Emerson, Parker Channing, or Newman. That had more weight than the whole lots of Vaishnava works to us. So greedily we pored over various commentations of the Holy Bible and the Tattva Bodhini Sabha containing extracts from the Upanishads and the Vedanta, but no work of the Vaishnavas had any favor for us. And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, the Bhagavatam, it's a literature that's stiff, and its branches are covered in the garb of an unusual form of Sanskrit poetry. But then later in this Bhagavata speech, Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions how that view he had of the Bhagavatam completely changed once he got in touch with the Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas and their commentaries. So he said, one must be prepared to take the help of learned commentators to properly understand it. The best commentator is Sridhar Swami, and the truest interpreter is our great and noble Chaitanya Deva. He says, God bless the spirit of our noble guides. It's very nice. So, of course, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is a Nityasiddha devotee sent here just for our benefit to the material world. But his life kind of, Krishna had it play out in such a way that it's an example for us. At one point, Bhaktivinoda Thakur thought unfavorably of the Bhagavatam, and then he got in touch with those commentaries of the Acharyas. That's what changed everything. I'm going to read you something again. This is from Gaur Govinda Swami, one of Srila Prabhupada's disciples. This book, Mathura Meets Vrindavan, is based on some lectures that Gaur Govinda Swami gave in Atlanta, Georgia, 1994, I believe. So please listen to what Gaur Govinda Swami says about his spiritual master, our Srila Prabhupada, and about the purports that he wrote for the Bhagavatam. He says, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami said, everything is in my books. He has given everything, but it is in seed form. He has only given a hint. Now we have to dive deeper and deeper to the deepest region. Then we will collect the invaluable gems that are there. Prabhupada's purports need explanation. The Bhaktivedanta purports are unique. Vaishnava philosophy is not easy to describe. It is a very subtle and most sublime philosophy. It is a very difficult philosophy. Prabhupada explained it in a very nice, easy language. Srila Prabhupada is especially empowered as Shakti Avatar sent by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Otherwise, no one can give such a thing as he has done. Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Maharaj has explained Vaishnava philosophy, but you cannot understand his words. Have any of you tried to read some of Bhaktisiddhanta's philosophical writings? You cannot understand his words. His language is so difficult, you cannot enter into it. The Vaishnava philosophy is very difficult because it has its own specific language. But Srila Prabhupada, our revered spiritual master, was an especially empowered person, and he explained it in the English language. It's very difficult to explain it in the English language. Many times the English language has no words to properly convey the meanings. In this purport, so the one he was speaking about in that class, Prabhupada tried his best to translate the ideas into English. And then he says, so remember he's giving a class, so he says, okay, now we're going to keep reading. This is a multi-day, multi-part class. He says, now we're going to keep reading the purport, and he said, Gaur Govinda Swami says, today I will read the next page and try my best to express it clearly, but I don't know how far I will succeed. I don't know, because I have no power, no qualification. I'm not a worthy person. Only by Prabhupada's mercy, mercy of Guru and Gauranga, if they speak through me, I can try to explain. Otherwise, it's not possible. So, it's a very nice passage, and it makes it clear that Prabhupada's purports, that's the only way we can really understand and have faith in the Bhagavatam. It really is. So, we have to think, thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj. Thank you to the six Goswamis of Vrindavan. They've actually allowed us to approach Krishna. So I have another section of the class, but I'm going to race through it, so please buckle up for the last few minutes. Because I was speaking about the Goswamis also that help give us faith in the Bhagavatam. So yesterday was the appearance of Gopal Bhatta Goswami, I believe. He wrote so much about the Bhagavatam, trying to help us understand and value it, give us faith in it. But he wrote loose manuscripts, and then Jiva Goswami collected those, and Jiva Goswami wrote the Sat Sandarbhas, these 6 books that really go into detail about why the Bhagavatam is special and what's contained therein. So, the first thing he says that these 10 topics that we spoke about today, they are referred to as the Dasha Lakshana. The 10 qualities, Dasha, 10, and Lakshana. Lakshana can mean symptoms or qualities or indications. The 10 qualities or indications of what? Well, these Dasha Lakshana, these 10 qualities are the qualities of a Mahapurana. So the Srimad Bhagavatam has these 10 topics, and it means that it's a Mahapurana. There are 18 Mahapuranas, and they are divided into different 3 categories based on the different modes of nature. Okay. And then what Jiva Goswami does is he says Sattvic Puranas are the most important. And he says that's because Sattva Guna is what can take you towards liberation. And then he makes a very interesting point. He says, please also look at the scope of focus of different Puranas in the different modes. He takes the example of the Linga Purana. You can see it at the bottom of the Tamasic Puranas. In the Linga Purana, they're approaching Sutta Goswami, and they ask him, can you please tell us about lingas, everything about lingas? So Jiva Goswami says, now look at the Bhagavat Purana, the Srimad Bhagavatam. They approach the same personality, Sutta Goswami, but what questions did they ask? They asked things like, what is the greatest benefit for all of mankind? What should we do? What should a dying man do? So, can you see the difference in the scope of the question? Only in the second question can Sutta Goswami really open up and give his best answer. I was thinking it would be like, imagine Nitai goes to Anthony and he says, Anthony, tell me about that cool kick that kid does in Karate Kid at the end of the movie. And Anthony might think like, that kick sucks. Like, why are you asking about this? But that's what Nitai wants to know. And then maybe Nate goes to Anthony and says, what is the best way of defending yourself? And then Anthony's going to say, it should be mixed martial arts. You should know some groundwork. You should know some wrestling. You should know some striking. So the point is pretty straightforward, right? Okay, now I'm going to go really fast. Some of the other things that Jiva Goswami mentions for why the Bhagavatam is superior. He says it's available in its entirety. It's respected by all the Vaishnavacharyas. It's the most popular of the Puranas. It has an intact tradition of Vaishnava commentaries. And so many of the other Puranas, the Sattvic Puranas, Sattvic Mahapuranas, glorify the Srimad Bhagavatam. And now he speaks about Vyasadeva. It's the culmination of all Vyasadev's writings, and Vyasadeva is the one that wrote all of the Vedas, right? And it's the commentary on his own work, the Vedanta Sutra. So it's like the commentary of the commentary of the commentary of Vyasadeva, right? Jiva Goswami also, this is very esoteric, but he explains that in the first verse of the Bhagavatam, there's a hidden mention of the Gayatri mantra, which also indicates that this work is going to speak about the highest spiritual truths, right? What else do we have? Oh, yes, it's Sakshat Bhagavat Toditaha, spoken by Krishna directly. That's unique, because the Bhagavatam, we just read this recently. Lord Brahma had to do some austerity, and then Krishna spoke the Bhagavatam to him. So it's coming directly from Krishna's mouth. Okay. Jiva Goswami also says that there are so many works written by different philosophers from different time periods, and all of them were the highest, most eminent thinkers of their respective philosophical schools, and they all wanted to write something about the Bhagavatam. They all had a special respect and love for the Bhagavatam, right? And now, another thing he mentions, he says, Sankaracharya, the Mayavadi Acharya, who wrote many commentaries. He says this. He says Sankaracharya wrote commentaries on the Bhagavad Gita, the Vedanta Sutra, the 11 principal Upanishads. He didn't write anything about the Bhagavatam. Because what you have to know is that Sankaracharya is actually Lord Shiva, and Krishna is very dear to Lord Shiva. And he was propounding this Mayavad philosophy as a service that Krishna wanted him to do. There's a whole backstory, we won't get into that. But he couldn't write a commentary on the Bhagavatam, because that's Krishna himself. Krishna is the Bhagavatam. But then he actually did glorify the Bhagavatam in his Govindastakam prayers. The Govindastakam prayers, he says, just surrender to Govinda. And he makes reference to some of the pastimes that are in the 10th canto, like Mother Yashoda seeing the universal form in Krishna's mouth, Krishna stealing the garments of the gopis. So Shankaracharya in that way also showed his respect to the Bhagavatam. And then, final thing I'll mention, Jiva Goswami makes it clear, you have to remember, the Bhagavatam is spoken where? At the assembly of so many sages, right? They all came together when Parishit Maharaj was going to leave his body. And Shukadev Goswami was speaking. And you had sages from all different philosophical schools again, with all kinds of different opinions. But they all together realized and knew Shukadev Goswami is the most advanced spiritualist here, and he's going to speak. And what did he speak? He spoke the Srimad Bhagavatam. So all these different sages, Bhrigu, Vashishta, Atri, Parashara, Vishvamrita, Angira, Parashuram, the list goes on. They were all there. Narada Muni, they were all there. And it was the time for Shukadev Goswami to speak the highest truth. And that is the Bhagavatam. Okay. So quick recap. We looked at the 10 topics. We saw clearly that the 10th is the most important. But we don't rush in there. We go gradually through the 9 cantos. They help us to understand Krishna's transcendental position and that his activities are motivated differently than ours. And then I asked, okay, but what gives us faith in the Bhagavatam? That is our acharyas. And then I just wanted to show some examples of how the acharyas help us to get that faith. So we'll go to questions and answers now. There's Prabhupada giving us Krishna. Yes, questions, comments, chastisements. Stephen, you're first.
Why did Shankaracharya write prayers if Mayavadis don't believe in the supremacy of?
So Mayavadis would say that you can use Krishna and the idea of Krishna and his form as a meditation just to bring you towards liberation when again all form will disappear. So it's kind of weird, right? But that's what they say. It's like, cool story, bro. Whatever you say, looks like bhakti to me. Any other questions, comments?
So the first book I got in Krishna consciousness was the Krishna book, but that's not exactly the same as the 10th canto, right?
It is, and it's not. Could say. So as I was saying, please any of the senior Vaishnavas correct me if you feel like I'm not speaking properly, but you know, Prabhupada was kind of rushing to finish the 10th canto because even early into his trip to America, he was having heart attacks and having health issues. So we must conclude that he was probably feeling like, I have to give them the most essential thing. I have to make sure that's there. But I guess not everything that's in the 10th canto is in the Krishna book. Krishna book is like a summary study of the 10th canto. It's very thorough, but so it's different and the same. Achinta Veda Veda. Yeah, and it has philosophy as well. The kind of philosophy Prabhupada would write all over the other 9 cantos. Have those philosophical explanations as well in the Krishna book. Of course, Prabhupada also wrote, and his disciples also wrote philosophical points in the purports of the 10th canto. So, yes, something else?
I just asked because I know we're not supposed to go straight to the 10th canto, and I'm like, whoa, is that what I did when I got the Krishna book?
No, I think it's okay to read the Krishna book. Totally okay. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the class. Yeah, we don't have to worry about Krishna book because on every single page, pretty much Prabhupada guards that aspect of Krishna's intimacy by reminding us about ABCs.
Yeah.
Understanding the difference between matter and spirit.
Yeah.
Don't think Krishna is an ordinary. There's these phrases that are guarding, and so there's no danger. Krishna gave a full liberty to Prabhupada to give that early on. And he gave both Krishna and Radha. He gave Radha in a form of nectar of devotion, and he gave Krishna in a form of Krishna book. So it's all there. But early on, I just want to make a comment about its encouragement to those who are approaching Bhagavatam through cantos up to the 10th one and not to jump. It's a little solace to those who might be sad that even those who actually qualify for the 10th canto, they take great relish in reading first, second, third, because Krishna is all over it.
Yeah.
Om Abhitaking Sargan, Visargan, all these steps towards the goal, the real gem, 10 canto, but Krishna is all over all the cantos from bottom to top. And if we're attentive, if we are really applying ourselves, we'll see that we won't be lamenting, oh, I cannot access. Because there's no difference, really.
Yeah.
There's no difference. We shouldn't think there's a difference in 10th canto, Krishna's lotus face, and Krishna's lotus feet, because they're absolute.
Didn't Prabhupada make some statement like Radharani is there on the battlefield of Kurukshetra? So I think something. Parthasarathi in Delhi. Prabhupada said that because Parthasarathi is the battlefield, he said you think Radharani is ever separate from let's go with Ria first. She has the mic locked and loaded.
I have a question,
Yeah?
but I was just wondering where is that content from? Like, is the book named Krishna book or like what's the
Which content? What I was saying right at
Yeah.
the end of the class, all that different things.
like the 10 topics?
Oh, 10 topics? Yeah, that's from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Shukadev Goswami is telling Parikshit Maharaj that what I'm about to speak to you contains 10 main topics.
Oh, the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Topic of the Krishna book is that it's not that philosophy is infused into the Krishna book, is that pastimes are infused into it. Because if you read the chapters, it's like 85% philosophy and the rest is the
That's
pastime.
a good way of putting it. Thank you. Yeah. And Prabhu was mentioning Prabhupada's always guarding you. There's one thing that I wanted to say in the class, but I was going really, I don't know if you noticed, I was going really fast. I had a lot that I wanted to share. But the one thing I wanted to share was when we saw the analogy of building your house on a proper foundation to avoid risk. That foundation is our identity as servants. You know, in Vrindavan, there's all this intimacy. Devotees have special relationships with Krishna. Mother Yashoda has a parental mood. The gopis have a conjugal mood, and Krishna's friends have they have like a French, what do you call it? Fraternal? Is that the word? Fraternal mood. But each and every one of them, they're thinking, I am Krishna's servant. They're not thinking, anything else other than that. Of course, their ras and their relationship comes out in unique, beautiful, special ways. But they're thinking, I'm the servant. So that's the foundation we have to have. That identity of servant. That's also what those 9 cantos really help us understand. Can we take more questions? Is it okay? Okay.
Tony, like in the beginning you said like that, forgot the name, but who was racing to like read the book?
I said Prabhupada was racing to finish the Krishna book for all his devotees, for all his disciples. He wanted to finish the Krishna book. I wanted to ask something from the first slide of verse we saw was the 10 topics. Yeah, all the details. A lot of these topics talk about creation and the details of the universe and so on, which may not be at par with the scientific understanding that people have of this world. And there are many descriptions of the incarnations, like Varaha lifting the world and so on, which may not be appealing to generally mundane, rational people who don't have faith. We believe in these things as a matter of faith in the initial phases, at least, of bhakti, where we don't have the realization. We don't know that to be true, but we have faith that that's true. How do we defend this when we are speaking or when we are preaching, when we're talking to people and they challenge that? Do you really think that, there's life on the sun? Do you really think that, a wild boar lifted the earth? Do you really think the sun is closer than the moon? They can challenge anything. So how do you
talk about?
Kick them, boot to the face. The way I would answer that honestly is to say the first thing is to carefully consider how much we're really going to try and convince them. It's said that we shouldn't try and preach too much to those who are faithless. So we meet someone wherever they're at. If someone is so vehemently atheist and so academically puffed up that they just want to argue, they're not really actually curious about finding out what we're looking at, what we consider valuable. I think so. Maybe this is a weird way of answering your question, but I think that's the first step, is to just carefully consider, like, does this person actually want to learn? And then you just give them whatever they're ready for. But if it is a scientifically minded person, and if they're genuinely, they want to learn, they're open-minded and not too puffed up, not too envious, there's lots of nice work being done. We always speak about the BI that's next door. And, Sariputta Prabhu, who's here in stays on Saturday, wrote really nice books to show how scientifically verifiable and accurate so many things coming from the Bhagavatam actually is. So, but in order to engage, go toe-to-toe with someone like that, you have to, I guess, really know the topics well. But even before speaking, I would just think, do they actually want to learn? Okay, I think we have to end there. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.